Thank you for supporting the Appalachian Journey Food Storybank Project. We are seeking out nominations for the Storybank component, which will center around recording oral histories that specifically include elements of mountain food traditions. 8th graders, such as myself, will conduct, transcribe, and compile the interviews. We are seeking out people who have stories to tell from their life or a life of someone who they have known that will be rooted in the land through the growing, processing, and the cooking of food. If you know someone who may be willing to be interviewed, please nominate them by filling out our nomination form. Thank you for supporting the Appalachian Journey Food Storybank Project.
What I always like to remember back is we had a large family. We were 6 kids, of the oldest of the 6 kids. And being the guy, I'm the one who a lot of the early chores fell to. And it was amazing. Every year we had a new gardener, and we had new kids born almost every year, every 2 years. So every time there's a kid, there was a new garden put in. So by the time all 6 kids were there and in the family, we had 6 gardens around the house. And so that really just kept me busy. There's always a lot of work to do.
Really, most of my grandparents came here in 1916. So they came on their honeymoon from Chicago. And they ended up here. They came to Asheville, and they were doing a camping trip, and they were driving out from Asheville, and they were the first car to come out from Asheville after the flood of 1916. They saw this house, which didn't look great. It was pretty old looking. And they decided they were interested in buying it, and they came up here, and there was an old man living here who was 81. They called him Judge Phillips, and he had married his niece or his ward, we're not quite sure, and she was 18. And my grandfather negotiated with Mr. Phillips while the ward went to took my grandmother on the porch and begged her to please buy the house because she wanted to move to town. She didn't like it out here in the country. Couldn't really blame her.
3 things that were really important. One, that's the old knife from my father's. But that goes back a long way. Butcher knife, real important. Couldn't get by without it. And this was an old 22. I remember it hanging on the shelf up there. My father, it goes back to his days. He used to kill hogs with it, like there. Broke that right there, hitting the hog in the stable right there. But talking about, how do you do stuff? And I remember right here on this bolt, this is the firing pin. And so, you know what that firing pin is right there? See that vise right there? Okay, that vise right there, man right there and me, we made that firing pin out of 16 penny nail because the firing pin that was in this 22 rifle actually wore out. 20 gunsmiths go around. You need a firing pin, what do? You get a nail, you make it.
I went hunting with my dad one time, and this stands out just on the spot, and we got a goose together, and he showed me how to take the feathers off together, and it was cold and my hands were freezing, but the goose was still warm, and he breasted it out, and then I cooked it because he had to go back home. I was living somewhere else by then, and I was really careful with it, and I had no idea how to cook it. So I think I remember searing it, and I think I don't know what I did. I think I put goat cheese and cherries on it or something. And it was so good, and it made me so happy that we had that experience together.
Although food is really important to me, what is the magic of food is that it brings people to the table. And that's what I'm all about, is bringing people to the table. I love food. I love the stories that come with food. I love that the food that I grow and what I eat has story. Most of the things that I cook or grow the seeds have been passed down from generation to generation.
I think that I recognize that cake specifically had this sort of magic to it, and that it was often used as a means to express love. So for me, to bake a cake and share it with a loved one or a friend, to me was a symbol of love. And to be able to take that and turn it into something that I was able to make money to put food on the table for my family, who I love, that also became a part of the magic of cake for me.
And each stage is comprising 1 year of growth. So you can very quickly tell how old a white pine is by just counting the stages.
And might you miss a few on the bottom?
Right, so you would have to fill in because the branches tend to fall off
and you can
at the
see
lower
nose.
levels. But yeah, you kind of get a relative, although it's so interesting, you know, you see this one.
Or whatever, it's like a great big bucket. You know, it's about this high and it's about that big around. That's what we used to wash our dog in, but it was, you know, clean too. But so we would come home. A lot of times we had a carport, and they'd have it full of water, and it'd be full of vegetables, and it would like be a gold mine. And I remember it was just so much fun because my grandmother would light up, and it would bring the family together, and we'd be processing the vegetables. And that's one of the things where, again, it's a real deep sense of home and community when people are doing that together, snapping beans or whatever.
I wore this today to show you all. This was actually designed by my friend Lori, who's the recipes I'd shared with you. And this is, it's a little, it's a piece of jewelry. Inside is honey, and it's the entire life's work of one honeybee, which is, kind of speaks to how precious it is. It's about, the glass is thick, it looks like more, but it's about 1/12 of a teaspoon. So one honeybee flying around, you know, between 100 and 1,500, you know, times per visit, times 5 times a day in the warm weather. I mean, they work so hard. Their whole life's work is just this amount of honey that's made. So it's such a precious thing what the honeybees bring us, and I'm always so grateful to them. And it's
well, I'm going to stay here in Asheville. I moved away for 5 years and I came back. I smartened up and came home. Asheville's a great place, and I think I'm to settle in and leave that legacy behind through my interviews and my process of gathering stories and making information out of that. And that's when I'm going to settle in, get a little tiny home and live in the mountains, and then go travel around the United States and collect these stories.
One of my things that I got and remember really good, we didn't have chainsaws in those days. We had crosscut saws that you cut timber with that. And as a young man, you know, 8, 10 years old, well, I couldn't really work the saw. So they gave me an axe, and I would go trim the limbs off. So they didn't have to stop and do that. You know, my dad and my grandfather would be sawing, and I'd go up to a tree and cut all the limbs off with a little axe. And so one year, I actually got an axe for my Christmas, and I thought that was the greatest gift I'd ever got. Something that was mine. Instead of borrowing Grandpa's axe, I had my own axe, a double bit.
You walk anywhere, and you're seeing this going on, and they're not even looking at. They don't even talk to you anymore on the telephone. They're texting. It's a lot easier. They don't have to go through the rigmarole of actually hearing a voice or being confronted with a voice change or an expression on someone's face, and it's just all a two-dimensional world almost. That's really what, to me, I hate it that it has to happen. But and I'm still not texting.
Well, I've been blessed to be able to live in the mountains, one of the best places in the world. Had a good job, good family. Very fortunate to have it turn out the way it did.
Are there any words of wisdom that you like to pass down?
Oh, well, let's see. I think always have love in your heart and a twinkle in your eye.